yesterday, a girl named Taiko, played by Daisy Ridley, she decides that she's going on vacation out over in the countryside of Tokyo to work in these safflower seeds, I think is what they're called. And she's doing it because she really likes she really likes working with her hands. And while she's taking the train there, and when she's talking to this guy named Toshio, played by Dev Patel, she starts reminiscing about her past, particularly in 5th grade, in which she's played by Allison Fernandez. I am a big fan of Studio Ghibli. I don't know if all of them are like the greatest of all time, because like a lot of people just go, "Oh, Spirited Away, that's like one of the greatest of all time," and I'm like, it's good. I don't know if it's one of the best of all time. In fact, I'm not even entirely sure where all the hype comes from, and it's like the same thing with stuff like Nausicaa or Princess Mononoke, which I like Mononoke. It's a lot of fun. Nausicaa is a little too preachy, but it's got some good stuff in it. The Ghibli film that I think gets not a lot of praise is their most recent movie, When Marnie Was There, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. I don't know what it is, like months after watching it, I just started thinking, and I fucking loved it. See, here's the thing, what I love most about Ghibli is like it's how simple it is and how most of it is focused on the characters and their interactions rather than on story. I don't know, for some reason I'm more biased towards small-scale Ghibli films like, like Marnie. I feel like Kiki's Delivery Service is more small scale because it takes place in a town as opposed to like the whole wide world, and like same thing with stuff like Totoro. But yeah, that's essentially it, and that's one of the reasons I was excited to see Only Yesterday, because Isao Takahata is probably the most mature director working with Studio Ghibli, and on top of that, it's supposed to be like a well-realistic drama, and it is, and it works very well, and I think it's one of Studio Ghibli's best in terms of like story and character. I was really excited to see Daisy Ridley, how she would do, because she did like one other movie and a few episodes of like a couple of TV shows before Star Wars, but when she did Star Wars, everyone just went nuts. And now all of a sudden she has this huge reputation. She's being eyed for Tomb Raider, which actually sounds kind of cool. But yeah, I was kind of curious as to how it was gonna go, and the first time I heard her accent, I'm like, really? She has to do an American accent, but Dev Patel is still British? But you know what? She actually pulls it off, and after a while, I started forgetting that it was actually her. And yeah, it was kind of weird. There was one thing that I kind of didn't expect, was that it was going to be a little bit more about her younger self, like the 5th grade self, when she's played by Allison Fernandez. That is where the best stuff comes. And after thinking about it, I think the flashbacks actually elevate Daisy Ridley's side in the present day, because when she's thinking back on her past events, there's the same theme that's going around, and that is there are a ton of things in life that she regrets. There's a good example where it's something as simple as she won't eat like these pickled onions, and it's always wasting food, and then like when everyone just labels her out in particular, she starts to panic. She is like, no, please don't throw them out, and it's too late. And it's a little example, it's not like a huge impactful example. I mean, it's not as impactful as like walking by a boy and stuttering while you're talking to him, which that was a really tough moment. And it also, yeah, it ties in with the whole theme of regret. And it works because in the present day, there's still some stuff that she does regret. Like, she does love going out to the safflower plants out in the countryside, and she loves the people there. She has better chemistry with them than her actual family, which, you know what, her family, they're kind of assholes. I mean, she's the youngest out of 3. The sisters try to be nice to her, even though they think she's an idiot. They think Taiko's a complete idiot, and they go about it in such a rude way, particularly the dad, who I think... Here's the vibe I got from it. The dad was a complete sexist. I mean, if one of them, at least one of them was a boy, he would probably, I don't know, have a conversation over dinner, which... But yeah, he barely says anything, and yet he he's pretty much the guy with the most power, which is insane because he's only in like, I don't know, 3, 4 scenes, something like that, and it's insane. And the mother, who does crack under the pressure, because to be fair, Taiko as a 5th grader was a little bit of a pest, which, you know, they're kids. What can you do about it? But yeah, I got real sidetracked on there, didn't I? She loves being in the countryside, and she loves the people there. But she never stays longer than, like, a week or something, and I guess it's because one of the things I noticed is that, like, as soon as she regrets something and then goes back to fix it, it never pays off. Like, as something as simple as them going out to dinner, she refuses to go. They say, okay, you can stay with Grandma, and then they start to take off. She realizes that was a terrible idea, and she's like, wait, I'm coming, and I won't give anything away because, honestly, you don't want to hear the end result, but, nevertheless, she doesn't go. So things like, it's a little example of, like, why she is afraid, like, taking a complete chance, because she knows very well that it could happen to her. The older version of herself very well knows it could happen to her. So there is that. There is one problem that I kind of have with it. Like, there's a couple things. One is, like, a complete nitpick, and that is, there are some, like, art house elements to this movie. Look, here's the thing. I'm completely okay with, like, art house movies. I enjoy them. Like, I like Drive. I like Only God Forgives. Angel's Egg was a really good art house movie. But there are moments where her younger self and her older self, like, I don't know, physically come into contact, and, like, it interferes with other people who are actually there, and I don't know, it doesn't really completely make sense, and they come and go really fast. The editing goes by a little too quickly, I think, so that could be it. I don't know. I always notice that Japanese movies, as slow-paced as they are, when they really need to get to the story, it's really rushed editing. That's kind of the thing. And the other major problem, I don't think is with the movie, I think it's with how some aspects of Japanese culture works. Like, a good example for, like, Whisper of the Heart or The Wind Rises, when they talk about marriage between characters, like, for example, Wind Rises, Jiro and Naoko, they barely know each other, and they, like, bumped into each other only, like, a few times over the course of, I don't know, like, 2, 3 times over the course of 20 years. And, like, they suddenly decide, oh, we're in love, let's get married, and yeah, that, and without giving anything away, there are characters in this movie who express how much they are totally okay with that, and have no problem enforcing that on other people. And, like, when one person, like, runs away from how embarrassed it is, the one old lady is just like, I was just being honest and direct, and I'm like, the hell is wrong with you people? Like, I don't know. When I left, I was just like, well, gee, that ending was really forced. And then I thought about it. You know, like, Whisper of the Heart sort of did something like that, but because they were too young, they never really went through with it. And with Wind Rises, they sort of go through it, but the character Jiro was an interesting enough character that I took a pass on that and was just like, okay, whatever. Here, it's not that the characters aren't enjoyable. Like, I haven't talked about Dev Patel as Toshio, and it's more because he's more of a likable character than he is a fleshed-out, interesting character. He does have depth. It's just not as much as Taiko does. She's really the one that gets the most amount of depth, and the other characters you're fine with. It's just, there's nothing to them in terms of, like, backstory and such, but their mannerisms and the way they behave is like normal people, that it's nothing really to get upset about or even to complain about. But yeah, when I saw this ending, at first I was just like, well, gee, that was completely forced. And then when I thought about it, I was just, you know, it probably is a cultural thing, but at the same time, it's really not a problem I have with the movie, it's how they go about these things, and I know this takes place in a different time era, and that could be the problem. I don't know. The animation was actually really good, and some of its best in my opinion. There are good shots that are like huge wide angles of stuff like fields and mountains. Even like even skyscrapers that sort of look digital, they still look really bright and colorful and realistic. Like they have the reflections, there's so much detail. Even something as simple as like a car driving over holes and speed bumps, I'm like, there was no point in drawing this in, and it works. It's just, it's really impressive. And one thing I noticed in another review is that some of the backgrounds are a little blurred. Like, only the flashbacks are blurred. And the only reason is because when you think of like a past event in your head, you don't remember like everything to full detail. You just remember specific things. You remember the people, or maybe like certain objects or certain events because, I don't know, it was physical or something. Not trying to not trying to start a Vietnam flashback, but it's not used in every shot in the flashbacks, but it still really works. And it has some of the best visual comedy too. Like a lot of it just relies on expressions, like an exaggerated smile, or just like, and it just works. Like things where their faces like blur red or they have like blue along their lines and stuff like that. And the other cool thing is that some of the funniest moments are just like awkward silence. Like something as simple as there's this one scene where they're like, they cut a pineapple and they try it. And that's really just about it. I probably made it look not as funny. But yeah, like just stuff like that. The silence is just so well timed that almost everyone in my theater was just like completely giggling over. So yeah, if it's playing in a theater near you, definitely check it out. If you're a Ghibli fan, if you're a fan of dramas, specifically like dramas for older women, definitely check it out. It's really worth the time. And I'm going to give Only Yesterday a 4 out of 5. Definitely check it out, and if you'd like to see more, press thumbs up, like, subscribe, you know what to do. Take care.